Okay, welcome. Excuse me, young man in the crowd. Hush. Please don't do that. Okay, welcome to my presentation of Microsoft Bits. This was a tool I did for IRSec. I'm just going to run through it, my process, my goals, all that stuff. And yeah. Okay, so who am I? Does someone have a question?
Yeah, who are you?
Good question. Yes, if you don't know who I am, I'm Enzo, head of research. I do Windows off security things. Yeah, and I like nagging people. Hush, Emmanuel. Okay, so the goal of this project, as I mentioned, it was for IRSec. I wanted to sort of develop a red team tool. I hadn't really done one for a competition before, so kind of wanted to try my hand at it. Looking around, I wanted to do something persistent, survives being killed and the like. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. So obviously I went to the MITRE attack framework. Shout out to MITRE. And I was just sort of running down the Windows persistence list, and I saw a thing called bits jobs, and I had never really heard of it before. I figured, I asked other Windows people if they've heard of it, and most of them hadn't. So it's like, oh yeah, I'll just try my hand at it, see what I can find out, and if not, I'll move on. That sort of thing. And I also, another goal was it didn't require any extra feature installation, because Windows has a lot of optional features and things that aren't always pre-installed on the system by default. So that was also a big thing on me. So BITS, what does it even stand for? So BITS stands for Background Intelligent Transfer Service. It's a sort of a sysadmin's tool of sorts. It's an administration tool. It's a service, and it has a bunch of tools on Windows by default that you can use. It's a sort of low bandwidth, updater of sorts. It can download things, upload things, and of course execute things, which I'll talk about later. It's made to be, to work with, SMB shares, IIS servers, CDNs. For IIS servers, I'll talk about uploading later. You have to use IIS servers for that. I'll talk about that in a second, though. First thing that I just want to go over quickly is the life cycle of a job, because this is kind of important to understanding how to establish persistence. So there are like four main stages, I guess, not states or whatever, stages. So there's starting states, which is suspended. So when you create a job and you don't start it, nothing like that, you just create it. I'll go into how to create it. It's in the suspended state. As it goes on, once you start the job, it becomes queued, it connects to the source, and transferring is when it's actually running. I'll go into the arrows in a second. These are important. Pre-final states, so right before these are like pre-complete states. There's error and there's transferred. So error obviously means something went wrong, not ideal, might try again. And then transferred might means that the file was downloaded or uploaded, but the job isn't complete yet. So in order for the job to be complete, the bits job must enter the acknowledged state, which is basically like you send job complete to the bits interface. I'll go into that later too. So for the little arrows that are on the screen here, these are like the most important states. So transferring is in progress. Transferred is right before it's done. It's complete though. And then acknowledged means complete. Just keep those in mind as I go on. Okay, so if you were a system administrator and you're like, okay, I want to use bits, what do I do? So there are two main tools. So there's bits admin, which is CMD, and there's a PowerShell command called bits transfer. So if you wanted to download this file, so I just did like a Windows PDF file and just download it. So you bits admin, transfer, enter your job name, download or upload or, whatever. There are a lot of also extra features, which I think I mentioned later on that you can add. I'll talk about those. And then PowerShell is the same way, except for it's a little cleaner, I guess. Yeah, so if you're a system administrator, that's how you would use it. Okay, so now I want to talk about getting into the project sort of things. So these tools that exist, I guess I mentioned it right here. Sysadmin is a deprecated tool. It can be disabled, and obviously, PowerShell logging exists, that sort of thing. So those things can be sort of watched, and if you're not careful, you can pretty easily be discovered there. So I wanted to write my own sort of tool to interface with the bits service as a way to, circumvent that sort of thing. So I was looking at a bunch of the C++, MSDN documentation for this stuff, and there's like a bunch of interfaces and all the methods in each interface. So C++ can directly communicate with it, but I hadn't really used C++ before. Yeah, I know. But I had used C# before, so okay, yes, boo. I found some reference DLLs from Microsoft that allowed me to interface with that, so I just used these instead. And these, as I pointed over there, the C++ definitions and the return values and the parameters were pretty similar, like to be expected. Like it wasn't hard for me to find out what parameters were needed and all that stuff. So I just sort of followed the Windows documentation, even though I wasn't technically using C++, but it worked. So there were a couple requirements for me when I was sort of writing this thing. As I put on the other side, there are many different versions of bits. So in order for command/program execution with parameters, I needed version 1.5. So I needed that 1.5 DLL that I added. So there are four main things that I sort of needed, or interfaces that I needed. I needed a background copy manager, which sort of manages all the bits jobs, the thing that I can communicate with. I needed a job ID, obviously. A copy job, which is a that has all the methods for, setting up a download, where to go, like all the parameters there, and then an iBackground copy job 2, which this was the important part for me. In bits 1.5, they added the set notify command line, which basically means I can do execution with that job 2 thing. I think I go into that a bit later too. Okay, so right off the bat, persistence isn't like immediately done, so you sort of need to do a little bit of, I guess, setting up. So this is the sort of timeline of what I did here. So you start off, you create and you name your job a unique name or whatever. Then you start your download your job, just like a normal tool, right? And that will complete. Like the full job in those first two steps, you've downloaded something and the job is complete. It is acknowledged, as I mentioned. Then what you have to do is create a new download job with the same name. It's important that it has the same name. With the second job, you can set your execution parameters, which is what you want to execute, like an executable file or CMD with arguments or PowerShell with arguments, whatever you want it to be. That's the execution parameters. The second thing, number 5, is the minimum retry delay. So this is the sort of persistence aspect of it. So this you set to 30 seconds or whatever it is, or whatever time you want to do your thing. And if the job fails or it is, I'll go into the whole persistence thing later, it'll retry based on how much time you say. I have a demo later too that'll explain this. So number 6, oh, what in the world? Hold on. Technical difficulties. Do I have to hit one of these things?
That'd be real annoying if it's gonna happen all the time.
Very cool. Thank you, Cyber.
Thank you, CyberRange. Very cool. What was I saying? Oh, okay. So for the background copy job interface that I'm using to communicate with these jobs, there are different methods that I can use here. So you can call, job dot whatever. If you look at the little, oh my God. Everyone messages at once. I don't know if you guys can see the little code up there, but I should have shown a photo I'll go into it in a second. Anyway, I call this job dot. You can have the job go into a bunch of different states. Job dot cancel, job dot resume, job dot complete, all these things. So it's crucial that you enter the resume state. So it's sort of resuming. I don't really know how to explain this well without showing the demo. But anyway, it will register the job as in progress. What is Joe?
No. I think you mean improve.
Wait, oh, Brad said something. Are these function calls blocking? Or is everything asynchronous?
Don't shut up.
Brad, you might want to expand on that question. I'm a bit confused. So, what does this mean for persistence? So, as I was saying, so you resume this job with the same name as the original job, which is registered as complete. So now, that job will run with whatever file you want running. It's sort of identified as the job is complete and in progress at the same time. So it executes and is complete at the same time. And then as the program that you want to execute is running, if you, oh, actually, I think I talked about it on the next slide. Oh, yeah, I do. So as the job is running, the job, the second job, like it won't be in the full complete state until the program is finished, like it returned code 0. So upon program failure, if it's killed or anything of the like, yes, thank you, Dan. If it's killed or something, the timer will start again and then it'll restart. It has one-time delete restore protection. So as you do the whole two-job thing, it stores a .temp file that's just kind of it's a hidden file next to the whatever other file you downloaded. So if it gets deleted once, it'll protect it. Basically, however many times you run this program, it will give you more, delete protection. After the 30 seconds happens, it'll restore the file and run it again. So kind of cool. So for the actual program that I wrote, I added a couple arguments. Definitely not complete, but some stuff. So I added a download thing where it just downloads a file, nothing else. There's an exfiltrate file thing. The one thing with using bits transfers for exfiltrating is it needs to be an IIS server. That's just the only thing that can receive it. That's just a kind of flaw with that, which kind of sucks, but you can set one up if you really want to do that. And the third one that I used was a download and run function. So say you're hosting some malicious executable in the cloud and you want to download it and run it. There's this little thing here, so it takes in the location of it online, the file path you want to write to, and then any arguments that you might want to use. Okay, so I wanted to sort of, I had that program running, the whole bits program running, so I kind of wanted to write something that would, I guess, exist and be functional. So I just wrote a bind shell quickly and a Python receiver. Bind shell was in C#. So that was all normal. Besides, like, I have my listener on a port, and I hide the window and do all that sneaky stuff. But the one big thing that I did that's important is that the bind shell never executes cleanly. It always must error out due to the fact that the persistence relies on the fact that it errors. So if the program is killed or it errors out, it'll restart in whatever time. So if I'm on some other system and I'm typing commands and I run a command, if I run the exit command, say I'm done with this, I want to start a new shell and I just want to exit out, I run exit and it makes sure that it throws an exception at the end of the program. That's crucial there. So yeah, and then the Python code is basic, connect to the port and send it type deal. Yeah, time for a demo. Let's see if it works. Hopefully.
Right.
All right. Let's see if I can easily do this. Okay. Oops, I'm streaming the Zoom link.
Oh, not
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Password protected?
No, I'm gonna
Oh.
Jason it, it's probably not.
Well, Zoom, you can just join it.
If anyone wants to join the Zoom, I guess.
Terminal?
Hmm?
No person use terminal.
Hush, child. I use terminal.
Supposed to use iTunes.
I don't remember.
Standard operating system.
That
think
will
I
bring down
used-
eventually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So, if you follow along, yeah, okay, it is streaming. Okay. So, I am hosting just this, the Shepherd or whatever you might call it, the bind shell on GitHub. Or say it's like any malware you want to download. You have some CDN that's hosting it. So as I mentioned here, you have your program. You do techdr. You have your remote location, what you want to write it to. So I'm just going to write it to the desktop under this random sneaky name, and then just run this quickly. And if you take a look at over here in my task manager, if I can get it to pull up, hold on here, right here. So I have it under System Settings 32. This is just the name I compiled it with. So it's running on the desktop right now. Now, if we just get the IP address, that's a 102.1.102.59. So this is just the shell, the Python shell that I use to send commands to it. So obviously can have my path, run whatever commands, do dir, whatever commands you want to do, see who you are, anything. Anyway, so if I am over here and I kill this process, end task. Oh god, I really should not have selected 30 seconds. We're gonna be waiting here for a second. Any questions while we're waiting 30 seconds?
Did you create the name Shepherds?
Yes, I did. I don't remember why I named it that. I think it was Scott who gave me the idea, but I don't remember why. Go.
Does it work?
Yes, it works. Well, we're about to see. We're just give it 30 seconds.
What's a shell?
What is a shell? Oh my god.
That is a good question.
That is a great question.
Does this give you PowerShell access or CMD access?
You can, okay, I'll talk about, I have some more slides after this. There's some future things that I need to implement.
Sometimes
Is it coded question mark?
But yes, you can have PowerShell access. You can,
Quantum.
does it use what?
Quantum.
Quantum computing? No.
Goes to quantum.
Oh, okay. All right, it's back. All right, we waited the 30 seconds. You saw I didn't do anything. It's running again. If I do this shell thing again, boom. Yes, we're back into it, and I can run PowerShell. Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, I have a few more slides to just run through.
Nice ask you, bro. Can you delete it again and put your hands up in the air so you can be sure you didn't touch anything?
I mean, I guess. Do you want to wait another 30 seconds? Okay, all right. To the slides. To the slides. Okay, so obviously, probably want to know the mitigations, the protections, that sort of thing, how to prevent this stuff. First thing is just clearing the bits job log. You can do this with the Sysadmin tool or the PowerShell commandlet. If you just do bitsadmin/reset or clear bits transfer on PowerShell, I think that'll just cancel all jobs. Persistence is dead. On AD with group policy, you can sort of, what's it called? Yeah, not disable, but like regulate bits using group policy. In the registry, you can edit a bunch of settings, obviously. One of the big ones is job life. So by default, a bits job is 90 days. So you can have 90 days of persistence by default. So if you just set that to 1 minute or whatever, then it'll be done. Transfer rates, you can also set the transfer rates really, really low, or 0 if you wanted to. That's a way. Or you could just disable the bit service, which is an easy one. Yeah. So final thoughts, obviously not perfect, not a perfect tool, but still learned a lot from doing it and working through it. There are a lot of factors that need to be in place. I totally forgot to mention some of the other stuff. I think I skipped over it in my slides, but one of the big thing is obviously you need admin access, which kind of sucks here. Another big thing is the user must be logged in for you to start or initiate a bits transfer, which kind of sucks. That I ran into a problem during IRSec where if I was trying to run something as a user and that user wasn't like actively signed in on the box, it wouldn't work, which kind of really did suck. It worked half of the time. And the tool does need a few more things. I want to implement, like the ability to run PowerShell scripts and batch scripts, which would be an easy fix to add, but I don't know, I'll get around to it. There were a couple more things that I totally forgot what I was going to add. Basically, needs a couple more things. Not perfect, but generally a good thing. I threw in a bunch of resources I used here, and all the code's on my GitHub if you want to see it. That's all. Questions?
Live here, red team.
No, what's red team, John?
Not sure.
Any questions? Anything? No, please don't throw the ball at me. All right, cool. Thank you guys for listening. Yes.
Yeah, bro, it's a cue
See, this looks like a well put together presentation. Now we get to listen to Jason's last minute presentation.
Jason, according to Jason, it's an hour long.
No,
So-
not gonna be
Oh
an
my
hour
God, do not
long.
make
What are
me
you
listen to
presenting
that,
out,
bro.
bro?
No, not an hour long.
Nice lead.
Weeks.